This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, the government is mulling charging for the park and ride scheme.
Even if we do charge for the facility, we expect it to be at a very low cost. And whether there would be a charge for the parking or the bus ride has yet to be decided.
A lot of jellyfish have appeared in our coastal waters.
You should use either salt water or use vinegar. We need that to neutralize the neurotoxin that gets secreted into the skin by the sting of the jellyfish.
And pro-Palestinian demonstrators last weekend were clearly angry at our government's lack of condemnation for the attacks on Gaza and on humanitarian aid workers. I think it's back in September, or thereabouts, that I spoke to our Transport Minister about the plans for a park and ride scheme which aimed to cut down the huge traffic jams on the entrance to Nicosia. It's been going very well, I gather, but they're now going to charge for it. It was previously free. Alexis Vafiadis, many thanks for your time once again. Do you think that this is going to put some of your regular customers off?
Well, we are looking at it, to be honest, and we're trying to see the big picture because we are beginning to implement the same concepts in Larnaca, Limassol and Nicosia to quite a number of locations. So we are hoping that people will be using it more and more. And the issue of the cost is something that is on the table for us. We are looking into it, trying to figure out what the cost is going to be to society, to the government, if the government has the option of financing this. But overall, it's something that we have not yet decided. What we do know is that in some locations, the owners insist on charging. So it might not even be within our options not to charge. But I must stress that we are still looking at it. We haven't decided yet. It's something that needs to be considered seriously so that we try and find, the best way to provide a good service to the people without hindering the use of buses in the future.
Have you had any feedback from the people who've been using it for the last, let's say, even 3 or 4 months as to improvements that could be made and whether they would be willing to pay for it?
Well, the feedback we have been receiving is that people are happy with the shorter route time. Of course, they are happy with the service being free. But we must not stay at that level of service. We need to be looking at various improvements to the service. We need to be improving security. We need to be improving the frequency of the rides. We need to be improving on other facilities that are available on site. So there is quite a considerable investment that needs to be done in upgrading these facilities to the standard we hope will serve properly the people. So it's one thing to pay for the investment that needs to go into the infrastructure, into the buildings and services on site, and it's another thing to provide a free parking service or a free bus ride. It's two totally different things. One is a one-off cost, while the other is something that it's a recurring cost, and it has a lot of different implications. So overall, we are looking into paying ourselves for the buildings and the facilities, but we are still looking into how we can deal with the bus ride and the parking rate.
Yeah, the parking is something at the moment. I think it's where, in the stadium car park, is it?
Yes, it is. It is, and the choice of location has a lot to do with the cost of the location as well. So most of the areas we have been able to identify and agree on their use are stadiums or other similar areas where their parking space is not used throughout the day. It's used only at special times, on the weekends or on events. So for them, it's not as if it's a business venture. It's more of a marginally improving the efficiency of their own investment. So even if we do charge for the facility, we expect it to be at a very low cost. And whether there would be a charge for the parking or the bus ride has yet to be decided.
Okay, but the buses, I think, are going to expand their reach. I did read, I think, that they were going to go further into town, like towards Parliament, for example. Do you see our MPs parking and riding?
Well, it's open to everybody. We will be expanding the service to Parliament and to the Court of Justice from the Gaza area, but we will also provide a service from the Makario Stadium to these same locations. We do believe that there's a huge demand for people to reach these places, so we want to provide a service. And we do hope that members of Parliament use the service because they actually fit the profile. They need to be in Parliament in the morning, and then they leave Parliament at some point midday or late afternoon. So they are definitely candidates for our service, and we hope they do use it because it is, of course, a good service. It takes you down to town faster and cheaper than what it would cost you to use your car.
Have you worked out how much time people do actually save taking this service?
We would say that in rush hour, it's 20 to 25 minutes.
So they can leave home a little later and still get to work at the same time. I'm surprised that there haven't been a huge uptake, but it hasn't been, has it?
Well, we have been restricted by the available number of bus drivers. We don't have any restriction with the number of buses, but bus drivers are scarce to find. We have been encouraging the bus companies to advertise and try and attract people with a professional driving license to join the service. Unfortunately, it has not been easy, and we hope that following a renegotiation of their collective agreement with the bus drivers, conditions will be better and more people will choose to join the profession.
So how would you assess this first? I think it was about 9 months, hasn't it, been running? How would you say it's gone? And what are your hopes for the future, apart obviously from expanding it so that more people take advantage of this? And I know you said you're going to try and roll it out in other towns as well.
Yeah, we're quite happy with the results we've had. We wish we had more drivers so we had better results. But based on the success of this pilot project, we do intend to roll it out into other locations as well throughout the island. And we hope to keep on improving on the service, on the ecosystem of the service, because it's not just the bus ride, it's also the information that reaches the passengers, because we need to be working on applications that inform passengers on when the bus will be arriving, how much time it will take for them to reach the destination. All this, and actually installing the new bus stops and the covers and the seats that come with them. So we're overall trying to improve on the ecosystem in upgrading the whole experience, the passenger experience, which is, we hope, will be a major attractive element for new passengers. So we're working beyond the operation of a park and ride location to further improve the overall bus experience, the passenger bus experience, so that more and more people would be attracted to use this. I was in Limassol this morning and there was a long discussion about talking with students from Frederick University, and they were quite vocal about the issue of security. They really made it a point that we should be going the extra mile and trying to find ways to make them feel secure, not only within the bus, but also while they wait for the bus. So we did take that as a major issue, and we will be trying to improve on that. They also highlighted that the trip time is, of course, of importance. They would like to have shorter trips, which means less stops along the way. We keep on looking at that anyway. Again, it has to do with the restriction we face with the number of bus drivers. But overall, we aim to look at that. We aim to look at improving the frequency of bus rides, because otherwise we will never be able to even get close to the freedom and the privacy that comes along with a private car trip. So we're working against that, trying to improve and trying to attract more passengers.
Now, two things arose from what you were just telling me. The first is, what are the students afraid of? What sort of security?
Well, it was this girl from the university that stressed this point, and her friend supported her in saying that. I'm not sure that it's a real issue of security. It's more of a perceived issue of security, whereby we should be trying to make them feel comfortable and make them feel confident that there will be no issue. So what they were expressing was perhaps a personal insecurity, but nevertheless, it's a statement, it's a position that we do need to take into account.
Okay, and finally, you came back to the issue we spoke about, I think, last time we had a chat, and that was the smart bus stops, so that people know when the next bus is coming and how long it will be until they get to their destination. You weren't just talking there about the park and ride, I think. That's something you're hoping to roll out across our public transport system. How's it going?
Exactly. We are planning on rolling it out across the island. I must clarify one thing, though, before I describe on the progress of the project. I must clarify that route information and time of arrival will not be available on every bus stop. There are several types of bus stops, depending on the density of population they serve. In some cases, it's just going to be a sign. In most cases, it's going to be a covered area, and in cases where there are a lot of passengers, it's a big kind of enclosed space. We will be installing in phase one electronic information panels in the most busy locations, and then gradually as the project goes along, we hope to raise greater budget so we can install it everywhere. But the thing is, we are also relying heavily on the development of an application that will provide the same information to your smartphone. So we do hope that, as is done in other countries, like in London, for example, where there is an application that lets you know when the next bus is coming, how long it's going to take you to reach your destination, and how long you have to walk to reach another location. So this is a very important part of it, and we cannot expect that this all will be provided for by the information at the bus stop. It has to be on your personal smartphone so that you have it with you all along.
So it will actually save the government money as well, won't it? Because those smart bus stops aren't cheap.
Yeah, but okay, we cannot expect that everybody will have a smartphone. We hope that at some point everybody will. So we're trying to cater for all sorts of cases.
The very best of luck with it, Alexis. I'm sure we will talk again as things progress, and many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Rosie. Looking forward to it.
That is Alexis Vafiadis, our Transport Minister, on the Park and Ride scheme and the improvements to our bus service upcoming.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
In the news again recently, our coasts. We've spoken on the programme in the last several months about the striped eel catfish, which has appeared in our seas, and then we had that rather ghastly bug that's in fresh water but has been found on our coast. We're now going to talk about jellyfish. Once again, I think they've come probably through the Suez Canal from the Red Sea, and they're causing a bit of a problem, particularly, I think, in the Larnaca area. My next guest is Yanna Samuil, who is from the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research. So, Yanna, these are not native jellyfish, I think, are they?
Correct. These are invasive alien to the Mediterranean Sea. They came in through the Suez Canal from the Red Sea, but they've been reported in the Mediterranean since the 1970s. So they're not new, but they're guests here. However, because of the changing climate in the Mediterranean Sea, they have adapted quite well, and they're here to stay.
We've had a lot of jellyfish blooms, I suppose you could call them, in the eastern part of the island before, haven't we?
Well, actually, in Cyprus, we haven't had any jellyfish blooms because, by definition, scientists call a jellyfish bloom when we can find between 10 and 100 individual jellyfishes per cubic meter. So we're talking about an area where basically you cannot see any clear water, and it's just a jelly mass of jellyfishes. Other areas in the Eastern Mediterranean, especially Israel, have had huge problems with jellyfish blooms, where there's huge congregations of jellyfishes within a very small area. And this has actually led to clogging of pipes coming out of desalination plants in the coast of Israel. But we haven't had any jellyfish blooms in the coast of Cyprus yet.
So perhaps my use of the word bloom, I was thinking of algae actually, and it was the only word that sprang to mind. So it's not a bloom, but there are a lot of them though, aren't there?
There's quite a few. We're talking about individual animals of jellyfish across the entire island. They, almost on a yearly basis, this is something that we are used to seeing, especially at the early onset of springtime, as we're switching from winter temperatures to spring temperatures, and also the currents, the water currents change around this area. So in the past few years, we have been quite used to seeing jellyfishes coming to the coastal areas of Cyprus. We are familiar and we expect to see this. However, what's a bit unusual this time is the presence of the jellyfishes in the coastal areas has lasted quite a bit, because while they do live permanently in the open sea, in the deep waters in the Mediterranean Sea and in our part of the Mediterranean, they only get brought closer to shore with the currents. So we only see them when they're close to us. It doesn't mean that they're not there. However, the presence in the shallows only lasts for typically for a few days or even a couple of weeks. What's slightly surprising this time around, this year, is that jellyfishes first were observed in the coastal area of Cyprus in early March, and they're still around, which is quite a long time for a very short-term phenomenon that's expected. So this is the surprising part this year, because we're a month into their occurrence and they're still around. However, we are expecting them, and we are waiting for when the water currents shift for them to be transported far out to open sea again. So we will not be seeing them for much longer, we hope.
Is the nomadic jellyfish a common visitor to Cyprus, given the conditions you've just said, or have the large numbers we've seen in past years been different types of jellyfish?
Well, actually in Cyprus, we have recorded 7 different types of jellyfishes, 7 different types of species. 4 of those have actually quite a bit of a nasty sting. All of the jellyfishes are able to sting. However, out of those 7 in Cyprus, 4 are quite toxic, if we can say. They cause quite a bit of a reaction when a human person is stung. And the nomad jellyfish, Robilema nomadica, is one of these 4. We have seen presence of the nomad jellyfish in the shallows area before around Cyprus. However, I believe the past few years we have seen also actually the most dangerous jellyfish in our area, which is the purple jellyfish, Pelagia noctiluga. But we haven't seen it yet this year.
So that's a bit of good news. Now, are you in a position to tell us what we should do if we do come into contact and get stung by one of these? I read somewhere that you shouldn't use fresh water to get rid of the itching. Is that right?
Correct. You should use either salt water, especially if you're treating it right at the beach, or use vinegar. We need that to neutralize the neurotoxin that gets secreted into the skin by the sting of the jellyfish. We definitely do not want to use, if a tentacle from the jellyfish remains on our skin, we don't want to use our bare hands to remove it, but we should use some other instrument, perhaps even a credit card or tweezers to remove the tentacle, because we don't want to get stung elsewhere. And then, of course, we should avoid covering it up. No band-aids, nothing. We need to leave the skin open and exposed to heal on its own. There will be pain, especially with the sting of the nomad jellyfish. There will be redness and itchiness, and there might be also some edema on the skin, but we should observe it and see how it progresses, and if need be, we may need to consult our personal doctor to apply some special pharmaceutical creams in the infected area. However, if a person knows that they're allergic either to food or to bees or to something else, we advise them to contact either their personal doctor or go to the hospital as soon as possible.
Yeah, an allergic reaction to these things can be very dangerous, actually, can't it?
Yes, especially for a person that already has an allergic reaction to something else. But we should expect the symptoms to last even up to several weeks. Of course, that also depends again on the sensitivity of the person.
Ooh, okay. Well, it's still a bit chilly to go swimming, in my opinion, so perhaps by the time most people head to the beach, these nomadic jellyfish will have disappeared. We hope so. Yanna, thanks very much indeed for joining me and sharing your knowledge. That is Yanna Samuil from the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research, bringing us up to speed on these nomadic jellyfish, which you might come across if you venture into our sea these days.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
And finally this week we end the programme with yet another demonstration against the war in Gaza. People gathered in great numbers in Eleftheria Square in central Nicosia on Sunday, and they were less than happy with the government's handling of the whole issue. When I reached the assembly point, the speeches had already started. I'll leave you with this. If you're listening in the audio only, then I suggest, if you want it with the pictures, that you go to my YouTube channel. Look for Rosie Haralambous.
By claiming this was an accident. But you, Mr. President, know as well as we do that the World Central Kitchen had coordinated with Israel, was told their volunteers were in a safe zone, and yet precision weapons were used to annihilate them in vehicles clearly marked with WCK logo. 3 times in a row! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! This attack was fully intentional, and your condemnation appallingly weak. At a time when Cyprus government should be boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel, several sources report that a port in Larnaca will be built and sold to the Zionist government, establishing an Israeli military presence on this island and helping the settler colonial state maintain their military and commercial operations. Shame, Mr. President! Shame, Mr. President! Shame, Mr. President! Perhaps it's time for our compatriots to start thinking about whether enormous investments in Cyprus from Zionist oligarchs and political figures that believe in supremacy and promised land should be a concern to us. With the Larnaca port already awarded to Israeli investors, with Israeli newspapers such as Haaretz publishing headlines like "Israelis streaming into Cyprus buying anything in sight." And with the British bases in Akrotiri and Dekelia, when can we hope for a truly independent Cyprus? And no, Our fears are not fueled by racism. We are not anti-Semitic. On the contrary, we believe in the freedom and equality of all people, which is why we want the full decolonization of our country and not to be inviting active colonizing states to take another piece of our land. We insist that the Cypriot government stops offering our island on a platter to the same greedy Zionists that are eating through Palestine. It pains me, it really pains me as a Cypriot Palestinian citizen that was brought here as a baby by my parents, that fled to take refuge in Cyprus. I grew up here and always considered Cyprus as my second homeland after Palestine. And I love this country as much as my love is for Palestine. And to witness a government of Cyprus involvement and collaboration with the genocidal Zionist government of Israel openly and publicly is truly disgusting.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Shame on you! Palestinians! Shame on you! Palestinians perish as a warning and wake-up call to us all. Enough with Israeli lies. Enough with their cheap and outrageous propaganda. Enough of blocking aid. Enough of violating all UN resolutions and the ICJ court ruling. We must not accept this absurd and twisted political norm that enable Israel to commit war crime after war crime. Palestinians are fighting an oppression in Gaza on behalf of the entire world against Western imperialism. Standing with Gaza is standing against imperialism, against Zionism, and against US and Israeli domination of Gaza as being a geostrategic location and stealing its gas deposits. Let it be written in history records that Israel butchered Gaza over and over, and the civilized West supplied the weapons and shielded Israel in the press. The oppressors pretended to be the oppressed. Stand up! It's time to take actions against this genocidal Zionist occupying state of Israel. We demand the defunding of the state of Israel. We demand imposing arms embargo on Israel. We demand political and diplomatic sanction. We demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire, allowing urgent and necessary humanitarian aid from entering Gaza through all land crossings. We demand the Palestinian right of return and the dismantling of colonial structures throughout Palestinian lands.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Freedom for Palestine!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Shame on you, nigga!
Shame on you, Nico!
Shame building, and we're going to be doing a lie-in. So we want everyone to lie down across the street in front of the building, please, now.
A lie-in is to signify all that's said in Gaza during the genocide. So if you don't mind lying down on the floor.
شباب صبايا شباب وصبايا نرتاح على الارض هلا مشان رمزيه اللي ماتوا واستشهدوا بفلسطين وبغزه. كل الشباب والصبايا الموجودين سقعوا على الارض. اللي ما بيقدر يتلقى ما في مشكلة، بس رح يكون في دقيقة صمت لأرواح الشهداء.
Δεν θέλετε να ξαπλώσετε τουλάχιστον να μπορούμε να κάτσουμε. Okay, everyone, we will do a minute of silence now in memory of all the victims of Gaza.
And on that sober note, I'll leave you for this week. I hope you can join me again next week. But until we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.